So the other day I posted a video where I made this. By this, I mean my ham bone soup, which I pretty much only make around the holiday season because it's the only time I make my ham. And there was one comment asking about the recipe. Now, I don't know if they really do want the recipe, but I'm going to break it down for you. I'll also try to break it down in the comments or the description section. I'm eating this as leftovers and it's still just as good. Now, one of the things I will say is that my ham bone soup recipe, along with how I cook everything, is not an exact science. I based my recipe off the recipe that I found out that my aunt used to use back in the day because I loved her ham bone soup, but I found out it was just from a packet from Honey Baked. Then I looked online and I found more recipes that I liked, and I kind of took a little bit of everything and added my own twists to it. With this particular ham bone soup that I have made this year, it is, as you can see, it has some macaroni noodles, it has the ham, there's carrots, and there is celery. Now that's what you can see in the bowl outside of obviously the stock. Now, there's also white kidney beans in here as well, but I don't really think you can see them. They're pretty I don't use a lot of them. I have them in there, but I really don't prioritize them. Now, breaking down my ham bone soup is a little interesting because my ham bone soup is super sweet. And that's because one of the things that I add to this, instead of just water or just stock, is the juices I use from my brown sugar rubbed pineapple brown sugar glazed ham. All the juices that I use pool at the bottom of my tray that I use for baking that ham, I save to go into this stock. And it's roughly about 4 cups worth. And then the recipe for the ham bone soup calls for about 8 cups of stock. So it's 4 cups of that, and it's 4 cups of a good chicken broth. I use the kettle and fire, and that works for me. You can use whatever broth you want. You can use water. So the base of this is 4 ounces of the leftover meat juices from the ham, 4 cups of the chicken broth. And then I also will, as it's cooking toward the end, start to taste it once everything's cooked. And then I'll start cutting with water, depending on how it feels. This was way too sweet when I first made it. So I ended up putting about another 4 cups of water into it and letting that simmer up and mellow it out because it was just way too sweet. You can use other things. You really do it to taste. Now, the recipe also calls for carrots, onions. Was there garlic in this? I can't remember if I used garlic. I did not use garlic. No, I don't remember mincing garlic for this. But carrots. My dog needs to go out. So not onions, but carrots. Carrots, celery, the kidney beans, the ham, macaroni, salt and pepper, bay leaf. So there are some exact measurements that are recommended to start with. I sort of up the ante on all of them. 3 carrots, skinned, 3 carrots peeled, then you chop them up. I kind of make them just chop them lengthwise. No, wait. I chop them into little circles. What am I talking about? Celery, just chop them, same thing. Throw them in there. Kidney beans, I just get them from Bush. It's just 1 can of Bush's beans, drain them, and then I'll throw them into. Bay leaf calls for 2 bay leaves, but then I'll actually throw in a lot more because I think it depends on how much I'm making. So in this particular recipe, I think I threw in about 5-6 bay leaves. Salt and pepper to taste. A little bit of olive oil because you start by sweating sweating the onions, and then you get them browned, and then that's you start throwing in the rest of the carrots and everything. So this is super uninformative because I don't know what I'm doing with this, even though I've seen enough cooking TikTok videos and videos in general to probably do this more professional, but this is me. Anyways, so you're gonna start after you've prepped everything. Maybe you don't prep anything, depends on how you cook, I guess. You start with your pot, 2 tablespoons of oil. I use a little bit more, but it starts with 2 tablespoons. I probably think I put in about 4 tablespoons of oil because I had a lot of onions, carrots, and celery that I needed to, saute in that pot. You start with the onions. Once those are brown enough, then you go ahead and throw in the carrots and the celery. And then once those are good, that's when you're gonna throw in your bone and all of your liquids. So for me, I put the bone in, then I put in the ham bone broth or ham bone juices, then I put in the kettle broth. I brought it to a boil, then I lowered it, let it simmer. And then you're gonna do that for about 2 hours until the meat is basically fall off the bone juicy, and every now and then you're gonna wanna stir it up. I was stirring it up every about 10 minutes or so just to keep everything moving, seeing how the bone is, coming along as all the meat is getting tender and just falling off. And yeah, so I would do that. In the last hour is when I really started to look at adding more water if needed, because I'd start to test the soup out, because that's what the flavor is pretty much what it's going to be at with the soup. And I was like, okay, this is way too sweet. Let me cut it with water. You could cut it with other things as well. Chicken broth might have done better, but I just wanted to use water because of how much flavor is already in this stock. So I did that to taste. And then one of the things I forgot to mention is when I was sauteing all the veggies, I actually salt and peppered it then. The recipes that I've seen usually call to do it at the end, but I wanted to salt and pepper the veggies off the bat. So I did that, and I do it pretty heavily because I love pepper. I don't think there's so much thing as too much pepper, but I was also like, it's gonna be so sweet that I think seasoning heavy off the bat is probably the way to go, and I don't see a problem with the ending result. Within that last hour, I threw in the kidney beans and kind of just let it be in there, stir it up the same amount of times as well. And I only threw in the macaroni in like the last 30 minutes because it was on such a low simmer rather than cooking it normally. I was like, it's gonna get cooked through. So the last 30 minutes, I threw the macaroni and kept stirring it. And then, yeah, it was pretty much it. And then now I have this delicious hearty ham bone soup. It lasts a really long time. If you're not a fan of sweetness, then maybe I wouldn't recommend using the ham juices like I did. Like, I know people prefer a ham bone soup that's probably maybe a bit more smoky, a little bit more savory. And to each his own. This is just the basis of what I did this year, and I know next year I'm probably gonna change it up a little differently. I like to experiment with it and find the perfect balance of what I'm gonna do. Actually, next month I'll probably be making another ham bone soup because I was requested to do ham again for my friends. Also, don't forget, when you are making your ham bone soup, after you take the bone out, after it's been cleaned, get the marrow out of it, because that marrow is underratedly otherworldly because it's a sweet, savory ham bone marrow. It's crazy. Anyways, sorry this wasn't more concise and probably not helpful at all, but if you do make ham bone soup and try to use whatever I said, let me know how it goes and if you liked it.